Captain Jake Morrison stared at the job posting on his ship's screen. The pay was too good to be true. 50,000 galactic credits for a simple mining job. He rubbed his tired eyes and read it again. The location made his heart skip a beat. Earth. Lisa, come look at this, Jake called to his engineer. Lisa Rodriguez wiped her greasy hands on a rag and walked over to the captain's chair. Her brown eyes widened as she read the contract. They want us to go to Earth? Jake, that place is a death trap. The radiation levels alone will kill us in hours. Jake nodded but kept reading. It says here the Galactic Council has cleared it for metal extraction. Automated systems only. No living crews allowed on the surface. Ben Carter, their weapons specialist, looked up from cleaning his rifle. Since when do we follow Galactic Council rules? We're not even supposed to exist according to them. That was true. Officially, humanity was extinct. The Vorthon Empire had made sure of that 30 years ago when they attacked Earth. Most humans had died in the war. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, hiding wherever they could find work. The Galactic Council had written them off as a dead species. Jake's crew lived on the edges of civilized space. They took jobs that nobody else wanted. Salvage work in dangerous asteroid fields. Cargo runs to planets with hostile atmospheres. Anything that paid enough to keep their ship running. The Iron Eagle was not much to look at. She was built from parts of a dozen different ships, human engineering mixed with alien technology. The hull was patched with metal from 6 different worlds. But she flew, and that was all that mattered. Amy, what do you think? Jake asked their navigator. Amy Stevens was the youngest member of the crew. She had been just a child when Earth fell. Most of her memories of home were faded dreams. The money is good, Amy said quietly. We need new engine parts, and the food synthesizer is acting up again. Jake looked at his crew. They were all tired. Tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of being treated like criminals for the crime of being human. But this job felt different. It felt like a trap. There's something else, Jake said. He pulled up a private message on his personal communicator. I got this yesterday. It's encrypted with an old Earth military code. The message was short. Just coordinates and a timestamp. But it was enough to make Jake's hands shake. Someone on Earth was still alive. Jake, you can't be serious, Lisa said. Even if someone survived the war, they'd be dead from radiation by now. Earth is finished. Maybe, Jake said. But what if they're not? What if some people found a way to survive? Ben Carter laughed. Bitterly. Survive? On a planet that glows in the dark? Come on, Jake, you're talking crazy. But Jake had made up his mind. He had lost everything when Earth fell. His family, his friends, his home. The idea that some humans might still be alive on Earth was too important to ignore. I'm taking the job, Jake announced. Anyone who wants to leave can get off at the next station. I'll find another crew. The Iron Eagle was quiet for a long moment. Then Lisa sighed. You're an idiot, Jake, but you're our idiot. If you're going, we're going with you. Ben nodded. Besides, someone needs to keep you alive when you do something stupid. Amy smiled for the first time in weeks. I'd like to see Earth, even if it's just once. Jake submitted their bid for the mining contract. Within hours, they got a response. The job was theirs. The Galactic Council was happy to have someone willing to work in such dangerous conditions. They would meet the other mining ships at the edge of the solar system in 1 week. As the Iron Eagle jumped to hyperspace, Jake wondered what they would find. The official report said Earth was a dead rock. The surface was covered in twisted metal and radioactive ash. Nothing could live there. But Jake had learned not to trust official reports. The Galactic Council had lied about many things. They said humans were violent and dangerous. They said the Vorthon attack was justified. They said humanity was better off extinct. Maybe they were lying about Earth too. The journey to Earth took 5 days. Jake spent the time reading everything he could find about the planet's current condition. The radiation levels were high, but not as bad as he expected. The atmosphere was still breathable in some areas. Most interesting of all, orbital scans showed massive amounts of processed metal on the surface. Look at this, Amy said, pointing to a scan report. The metal isn't random debris, it's arranged in patterns, almost like someone organized it. Organized how? Lisa asked. I don't know, but it doesn't look natural. It looks like someone put it there on purpose. When they reached the edge of the solar system, Jake was amazed by what he saw. Dozens of mining ships waited in formation. Most were from the big galactic corporations. Sleek, expensive vessels with the latest technology. The Iron Eagle looked like a toy next to them. Look at all those ships, Ben said. They're treating this like a gold rush. Jake studied the fleet. Something bothered him about it. These companies were known for being careful with their money. They didn't send expensive ships to dangerous places unless they were sure of a big profit. Jake? Amy said urgently. I'm picking up something strange on the sensors. What kind of strange? Energy readings from Earth. Very faint, but there it's like there's power being generated on the surface. Jake's heart raced. Power meant life. It meant someone was still down there. The fleet began moving toward Earth. Jake watched as the blue and green planet grew larger on the screen. Even from space, he could see the damage. Brown scars covered the continents where cities used to be. The oceans were darker than he remembered, but it was still Earth. It was still home. All ships prepare for orbital insertion, came the voice of the fleet commander. Mining operations will begin in 6 hours. Remember, no living crews on the surface. Automated systems only. Jake smiled grimly. They would see about that. He had come too far to let rules stop him now. If someone was alive down there, he was going to find them. The Iron Eagle fell into orbit around Earth. Jake looked down at the planet where he was born, where his parents had died, where humanity had made its last stand against the Vorthan Empire. They called it a dead world, but Jake was beginning to think it might be very much alive. Jake waited until the other mining ships were busy with their operations. The big corporate vessels sent down their automated drones to collect metal from the surface. None of them seemed interested in exploring beyond their assigned areas. Amy, take us down to these coordinates, Jake said, showing her the encrypted message he had received. Keep us low and quiet. I don't want the other ships to notice us. The Iron Eagle dropped through Earth's atmosphere. Jake pressed his face to the window, watching his home planet grow closer. The air was thick with dust and smoke, but it was breathable. The radiation detector clicked steadily, but stayed in the safe zone. This is wrong, Lisa said, checking her instruments. The official report said radiation levels were deadly, but these readings are only slightly above normal. Maybe the reports were old, Amy suggested. Radiation levels can drop over time. Ben Carter shook his head. Not this fast. Something else is going on here. They landed in what used to be the ruins of Denver. The landscape was covered with twisted metal and broken concrete. But as Jake looked closer, he noticed something odd. The metal pieces were arranged in neat piles. Someone had been organizing the debris. Look at that. Amy pointed to a large piece of steel. There are marks on it, like someone cut it with tools. Jake put on his environmental suit and stepped outside. The air felt strange against his skin, even through the protective gear. It was warmer than he expected, and there were sounds in the distance. Not the sounds of a dead world, but the sounds of machinery. Jake, come back to the ship, Lisa called over the radio. I'm picking up movement underground, something big. Before Jake could respond, the ground beneath his feet began to shake. A section of rubble moved aside, revealing a metal platform. The platform rose up, carrying with it a figure in a clean environmental suit. Welcome home, Captain Morrison, the figure said. The voice was human, female, alive. Jake's heart nearly stopped. Who are you? How do you know my name? The woman removed her helmet, revealing a face that was weathered but strong. Her gray hair was pulled back in a military style. I'm Commander Helen Brooks. We've been waiting for you. We? The survivors. The ones who never left Earth. Helen led Jake to the platform. As they descended underground, Jake's eyes widened in amazement. Below the surface was a vast city. Lights stretched, as far as he could see. People walked through clean streets. Children played in parks with artificial sunlight. How is this possible? Jake whispered. When the Vorthons attacked, some of us saw what was coming, Helen explained. We went deep, built cities under the ground, used geothermal energy to power everything. The surface destruction was terrible, but down here we survived. They reached the bottom of the platform. Jake stepped into the underground city and felt like he was dreaming. The walls were lined with growing plants. The air smelled fresh and clean. People stopped to stare at him, but their faces showed hope, not fear. "How many of you are there?" Jake asked. "About 2 million, Helen said. "Spread across 12 major cities on 3 continents. We've been building for 30 years. Learning. Preparing." "Preparing for what?" Helen smiled grimly. "For this day. For the day when the galaxy came back to strip our world bare." She led him to a central building that looked like a command center. Inside, dozens of people worked at computer stations. Screens showed the mining ships in orbit and their drone operations on the surface. "Let me introduce you to Dr. Alan Pierce," Helen said. An older man with wild gray hair looked up from a complex diagram. "He's our chief scientist. Alan, this is Jake Morrison." "The Jake Morrison?" Alan's eyes lit up. "The man who got the Shanghai colony ships to safety? You're a legend down here." Jake felt embarrassed. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Helen said firmly. "You saved 300,000 people. We heard about it even down here. It gave us hope." Alan showed Jake to a large screen displaying the surface of Earth. "Look at this carefully, Captain. What do you see?" Jake studied the image. The surface was covered with metal debris, just like the report said. But now that he looked closer, he could see patterns. The metal was arranged in geometric shapes, lines that connected across continents. "It looks organized," Jake said slowly. "Because it is," Alan said excitedly. "Every piece of metal on the surface has been placed there by us. For 30 years we've been preparing the ultimate defense system." "Defense against what?" Helen's face grew serious. "We monitor galactic communications. We know the Vorthons are planning another attack. Not just on Earth, but on all the human colonies. They want to finish what they started." Jake felt cold despite the warm air. "How long do we have?" 3 months, maybe 4, Helen said. "Their main fleet is already moving. They think they'll find easy targets, scattered human settlements with no central defense. But they're wrong," Alan said with a grin. "Because Earth isn't dead, and we're not defenseless." Alan brought up another screen showing technical diagrams. "Every piece of metal on the surface is connected to our underground network. When we activate the system, the entire planet becomes a weapon." Jake stared at the diagrams. "You're talking about billions of tons of metal." "Exactly. Metal that everyone thinks is worthless scrap. But we've spent decades preparing it. Every piece can be controlled remotely, reformed into whatever we need. Weapons, shields, even spacecraft." Helen walked to a window that looked out over the underground city. "The mining companies up there think they're collecting garbage. They have no idea they're handling the components of the most powerful defense system ever built." "What about my crew?" Jake asked. "They're still on the ship." "Bring them down," Helen said. "It's time they learned the truth. Time they learned that humanity never surrendered." Jake felt a mix of emotions, joy that his people had survived, fear of what was coming, but mostly he felt something he hadn't experienced in 30 years. Hope. "There's more," Alan said. "We've been reverse engineering every piece of alien technology we could find. The Vorthons aren't the only ones who learned new tricks." Helen smiled. "The galaxy thinks humans are extinct. They're about to learn how wrong they are." As Jake prepared to return to his ship and bring his crew down, he looked around the underground city one more time. These people had spent 30 years in hiding, preparing for a war that might never come. But it was coming. And when it did, the galaxy would discover that Earth's children were ready to fight back. The surface might look like a graveyard, but underneath humanity was very much alive, and they were angry. Jake brought his crew down to the underground city. Lisa, Ben, and Amy stared in amazement at the thriving civilization hidden beneath Earth's surface. Lisa immediately started asking questions about the engineering systems. Ben wanted to know about their weapons. Amy just kept looking around with tears in her eyes. "I never thought I'd see home again," Amy whispered. Commander Helen Brooks gathered Jake's crew in the main command center. "Your timing is perfect," she said. "The Vorthan advanced scouts will arrive in 6 hours. We've been tracking their ships for weeks." Danny Walsh, the surface operations coordinator, looked up from his control station. "All surface systems are ready, Commander. Every piece of metal is connected to the network. We can activate the planetary defense grid on your command." Jake watched the screens showing the mining ships still working above. "What about the corporations up there? They have no idea what's coming." "We'll warn them when the time comes," Helen said. "But first, we need to show the galaxy what humans can do." Dr. Alan Pierce walked over with a tablet full of technical data. "Captain Morrison, we'd like your crew to help us with something special. We've been building ships down here for 30 years. Ships that look like they're made from scrap metal, but they're actually more advanced than anything the aliens have." He led them to a massive underground hangar. Jake's jaw dropped. Dozens of ships filled the space. They looked rough and patched together, but Jake could see the advanced technology hidden underneath the crude exterior. "These ships are built from salvaged alien tech mixed with human engineering," Alan explained. "The aliens always thought their technology was too advanced for humans to understand. They were wrong." Captain Rita Murphy approached them. She was a tall woman with short red hair and confident eyes. "I command the space fleet," she said. 25 ships all ready for battle. We've been waiting 30 years for this fight." Jake looked at the ships again. They were beautiful in their own way. Each one was unique, built from different materials and technologies. But they all shared the same human spirit of making something great from whatever was available. "The Vorthons won't expect this," Jake said. "That's the point," Rita replied. "They think we're all dead or scattered. They have no idea we've been building an army." Helen's communicator buzzed. "Commander, we have movement in Sector 7. 3 Vorthon scout ships just dropped out of hyperspace." "Here we go," Helen said. "Danny, prepare to activate the surface grid. Rita, get your ships ready. Jake, you and your crew can watch from here or join the fight. Your choice." Jake looked at his crew. Ben was already checking his weapons. Lisa was studying the ship designs with eager eyes. Amy was staring at the fleet with determination. "We're in," Jake said. The command center burst into activity. Technicians worked at dozens of stations. Screens showed the Vorthon ships approaching Earth. The aliens were being careful, scanning for threats. "They're confused," Danny reported. "The Vorthons are reading massive energy signatures from the surface, but they can't figure out what's causing them." "That's because they're not looking deep enough," Helen said with a smile. On the screens, Jake watched the Vorthon ships split up to investigate different areas of the planet. They were sleek and dangerous looking, but there were only 3 of them. Advanced scouts just like Helen had predicted. "Now," Helen ordered. Danny's fingers flew over his controls. On the surface, billions of pieces of metal began to move. Twisted, wreckage reformed itself into weapons. Broken steel became missile launchers. Scattered debris turned into defensive barriers. The Vorthon ships suddenly found themselves under attack from the planet itself. Metal pieces launched into the air, pursuing the alien vessels. The ships tried to escape, but more weapons kept appearing from the surface. "Direct hit on Scout Ship 2, Danny reported. "Scout Ship 3 is trying to retreat." "Don't let them escape," Helen commanded. "We can't let them warn the main fleet." Rita's voice came over the communication system. "Phoenix Rising requesting permission to launch." "Permission granted. All ships launch now." Jake watched in amazement as the underground hangar opened to the sky. Rita's fleet of human ships rose from the earth like metal birds. They looked like flying junkyards, but they moved with deadly grace. The Vorthon scout ships were trapped between the surface weapons and the human fleet. The aliens tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. "This is impossible," came a transmission from one of the Vorthon ships. "Humans are extinct. These readings must be wrong." "Tell that to my weapons," Rita replied over the open channel. The battle was brief but decisive. 2 Vorthon ships were destroyed. The third was captured by Rita's fleet. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. The main Vorthon fleet will notice when their scouts don't report back, he said. We're counting on it, Helen replied. We want them to come here. We want them to see what we've built. General Tony Martinez entered the command center. He was a tough-looking man with gray hair and scars on his face. The Vorthon prisoner is talking, he said. The main fleet is bigger than we thought. 200 ships, maybe more. 200 ships against our 25, Rita said over the communicator. I've faced worse odds. You won't be facing them alone, Helen said. The entire planet is our weapon now. Every piece of metal on the surface can be controlled. We can build more ships, more weapons, whatever we need. Jake looked at the screens showing the captured Vorthon vessel. What are you going to do with the prisoner? Send him back to his fleet with a message, Tony said. We want the Vorthons to know that Earth is no longer defenseless. We want them to know that humanity is ready for war. Danny worked at his station, preparing to launch the captured ship. Message ready, General. Send it, Tony ordered. The Vorthon ship launched from Earth, carrying its surviving crew member and a simple message. Earth was alive. Humanity was ready, and the galaxy was about to discover that the species they thought was extinct had spent 30 years preparing for revenge. How long before the main fleet arrives? Jake asked. 2 weeks, Helen said. Maybe less if they're angry enough. Jake looked around the command center at the determined faces of his fellow humans. They had turned their homeworld into a fortress. They had built a fleet from scraps and dreams. They had survived when everyone said it was impossible. Let them come, Jake said. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do. The Vorthon main fleet arrived 12 days later. Admiral Kevin Davis watched from the bridge of his flagship Phoenix Rising as 200 enemy ships dropped out of hyperspace. The alien vessels were massive and beautiful, their hulls gleaming with advanced technology. They sure brought a lot of friends, Ben Carter said, checking his weapons one more time. Good, Admiral Davis replied. More targets for us. Kevin had been promoted to Admiral after Jake recommended him to lead the space battle. Jake now served as his tactical advisor, along with Lisa and Amy. The Iron Eagle flew alongside the Phoenix Rising, part of the human fleet that had grown to 50 ships in just 2 weeks. Down in the underground command center, Commander Helen Brooks watched the enemy fleet with calm eyes. General Martinez, are the surface weapons ready? Every piece of metal on the planet is under our control, Tony replied. We've got enough firepower to level a moon. Dr. Alan Pierce was practically bouncing with excitement. The new ships are performing perfectly. Alien technology really does work better when you mix it with human creativity. The Vorthon fleet moved into attack formation. Their commander sent a message to Earth on all frequencies. Humans of Earth, you have interfered with Vorthon operations and destroyed our scout ships. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Helen picked up the communicator. This is Commander Helen Brooks of the Earth Defense Force. We have a counteroffer. Leave our system now and we might let you live. Laughter came from the Vorthon ships. You have 50 primitive vessels against our 200 advanced warships. Your planet is dead rock covered in scrap metal. What could you possibly do to stop us? Let me show you, Helen said. She nodded to Danny Walsh. Danny's fingers moved across his control station. On Earth's surface, billions of pieces of metal began to move. But this time, they didn't just form weapons. They began building something much bigger. What are they doing down there? The Vorthon commander asked his sensors officer. Unknown, sir. The metal appears to be reorganizing itself. In space, Admiral Davis gave the order to attack. All ships, engage the enemy. Show them what human engineering can do. The human fleet moved forward. Their ships looked like flying junkyards compared to the sleek Vorthon vessels, but appearances were deceiving. The human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and packed with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Captain Rita Murphy commanded the destroyer Scrap Metal Dream. Her ship was built entirely from salvaged, alien technology, but it had been improved with human modifications. Target their command ship, she ordered. Let's cut off the head of this snake. The battle began in earnest. Human ships swarmed around the larger Vorthan vessels like angry bees. The aliens had superior firepower, but the humans had superior tactics. Every human ship was unique, making it impossible for the enemy to predict their behavior. Their weapons are more advanced than expected, reported a Vorthan captain. These ships should not be this effective. Down on Earth, the metal on the surface had finished rearranging itself. What had once looked like random debris now formed massive launch platforms across every continent. "Danny, fire the planetary cannons," Helen ordered. Huge beams of energy erupted from Earth's surface. The beams were created by focusing geothermal energy through crystal arrays that had been hidden in the scrap metal for decades. The weapons hit 3 Vorthan ships, destroying them instantly. "Impossible," the Vorthan commander said. "Their planet is supposed to be dead." "Sir, we're detecting massive energy sources underground. There are cities down there, millions of humans." The Vorthan commander realized he had been tricked. "We've been deceived. This whole mining operation was a trap. All ships target the planet's surface, destroy their cities." But as the Vorthan ships turned their weapons toward Earth, they found their path blocked by human vessels. Admiral Davis had positioned his fleet between the aliens and the planet. "You want to hurt our home?" Davis said over the open channel. "You'll have to go through us first." Engineer Carla Thompson was working frantically in the Phoenix Rising's engine room. "Admiral, I've got the new weapon system online, the one Dr. Pierce designed." "Fire it up, Carla. Let's see what this baby can do." The Phoenix Rising suddenly blazed with energy. But instead of firing conventional weapons, the ship began pulling metal debris from space and reforming it into missiles. The human ship was turning space junk into ammunition. "How are they doing that?" a Vorthan scientist asked. "They're using some kind of matter manipulation technology, but that's impossible. Humans don't have that level of science." "They do now," Admiral Davis said. The tide of battle began to turn. Human ships were outnumbered 4-1, but they were winning. Every piece of destroyed Vorthan technology became material for new human weapons. The aliens were literally being defeated by their own superior equipment. On Earth, President Steve Collins watched the battle from the main command center. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Tell them that humanity is officially back." The message went out across the galaxy on all frequencies. "This is President Steve Collins of the Earth government. For 30 years you have ignored us, abandoned us, and written us off as extinct. Today, we announce our return to galactic civilization, not as beggars asking for scraps, but as equals who have earned our place." The Vorthan fleet was falling apart. Half their ships were destroyed or disabled. The remainder were trying to retreat. But human ships pursued them relentlessly. "Admiral Davis to all human vessels," Kevin announced. "Let some of them escape. We want them to go home and tell others what happened here." Jake smiled from his position on the Phoenix Rising's bridge. "You want them to spread the word?" "Exactly. I want every alien in the galaxy to know that Earth is protected, that humanity is back, and that we're not the same species that got pushed around 30 years ago." The surviving Vorthan ships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing in panic. The space around Earth was filled with the wreckage of alien vessels and the victorious cheers of human crews. Down in the command center, Helen looked at the celebration around her. "What's our next move?" she asked Tony. "We rebuild, we expand, and we make sure this never happens again," Tony replied. Jake looked out at the stars through the Phoenix Rising's viewports. "The galaxy thought we were finished. They called our world scrap. They thought we were too weak to fight back." Amy stood beside him, her eyes bright with pride. "What are we going to call this victory?" Jake smiled. "We're going to call it the day humanity came home." Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. Earth was alive. Humanity had returned. And they had turned the aliens' own arrogance against them. The species that everyone thought was extinct had built the most powerful defense system in known space, from materials that others considered worthless. They called it scrap. Earth called it victory.